Morning, everybody. Leslie Denny with Yoga Oceanside for our stretch and release class, and I hope you're having a great day. It's beautiful outside here in Oceanside. The sky is clear. It's a little warm with a little breeze, and I don't know where you're watching from, but if you're able to enjoy this beautiful weather today, lucky for us. So come and meet me on the mat. What we're going to be using today for our stretch and release class is a block, a large alpha ball, and a small twin set, as well as a strap. And we're going to be working into kind of the area of the upper arms for purposes of shoulders and low back, as well as neck tension. So I'll tell you all about that once we get started. But I did have a thought to share with you today, like I always do. And this thought is, I don't have an author. I pulled it up from a quote website. And the thought is, truth and patience are those rides which never let their riders fall, neither at anyone's feet nor in anyone's eyes. Staying authentic in our truth and being patient with wherever we are is certainly a challenging thing to do on many occasions, especially these days. It's really to try to stay at being patient for things to move in their time instead of the timing that we want them to move. I know that my nature is to be a planner, and I can't plan right now. And to, once I have a plan in place, to move it along to try to get to the destination. And right now I am learning the greatest skill at trying to stay in the moment. And I think for me, staying in the moment is also a lot about embracing just what's happening right in your environment, in your space, in your day. So I've found a lot of appreciation in making a dinner time meal. It's so funny because in my normal work life, I come home late on a number of nights. And so I had a habit of eating kind of my main meal of the day pretty late, in the afternoon, and knowing that when I got home, I'd probably have like maybe a little snack or nothing, depending on the time that I would get home from classes and finishing up my day. And so as a result, there were many evening meals that my husband, John, ate by himself. And believe me, he's a great cook and he's a very self-sufficient person where he can do all of that on his own. But we've now come to a place where every evening we're having a dinner together, which I really haven't done for years. And we were just talking about it the other night about this is a little thing that just unfolded that we haven't had for so very long. And even back in the days of our, early days of our marriage, I would eat dinner alone because he was working sometimes at the hospital and not able to come home early. But now it's like we're setting a new precedent that is lovely because of these times. And I think by having the patience and kind of living our truth of where we're at right now, we're able to embrace things just as simple as that, as eating dinner together, that makes such a difference in our daily lives. And so I'm sure that there's things that are unfolding in your life right now that are truths of maybe your existence and the way you're living right now. And maybe some of those things require a lot of patience. I know cooking for me does, believe me. I'm not someone who really enjoys cooking. I never have. And now I'm learning, gathering recipes. We're getting vegetables delivered every Friday from Yasukuchi Farms. And the selection of vegetables is amazing, but most of them I'd never seen before because I was so narrow in my scope of eating. I eat vegetables, but not a broad spectrum of them. So now I'm getting recipes from friends on how to cook things and guidance. And even though I'm not able to physically connect with those people, I am probably connecting with them at a deeper level than I ever did before. And they're teaching me things. And that's another truth that's coming out from all of this, is that with that patience of understanding that things are a little different right now, I'm beginning to reach out to people in a different way, and I'm learning things that I probably wouldn't have learned otherwise. So every experience gives us an opportunity that if we're just a little patient and we live in our truth, we will learn things that otherwise we may have missed. And that's kind of our truth and authenticity for our practice today, which is uncovering a very elusive muscle that is very big. It's a thin muscle, but it's a big muscle. We've talked about it a lot before, and that's the latissimus dorsi. And your lats, I don't know if you can see this little picture, but I'm going to hold it up to the screen just in case. This is kind of a really good picture of the lats. And so you can see how this muscle is quite big. It attaches to the low back and comes up here. And this is your little armpit. That's called your axilla. And so what we're going to be doing is kind of working the lats in that area. We're also going to venture into the deltoid muscle, which can create a lot of tension into this muscle, which is the trapezius muscle. And remember, I always talk about how the traps go from here all the way up to the neck. So a lot of times when we're doing neck relieving things, we will focus on the trapezius muscle. So it's kind of Lat Tuesday. We're going to be working into those lats, that very predominant, present, yet elusive muscle that we don't think about, that affects many areas of the upper back and the shoulders. So let's come to a comfortable seated posture. Get out one of my little bowls here. That was a loud ding. And come to, kind of just rock yourself forward to back and side to side. And then once you get into that space, just take a few deep breaths. And then just see if you can relax into a rhythm of breathing that's comfortable for you. And in that space, maybe let your mind, which is so active, drift through thoughts of things that are your new truths at this time. New things that you're working with, new experiences that you're having, maybe new encounters that you're having with people that you didn't have before. Maybe expressions of patience that you've needed to be able to work through certain things. Whether it's waiting in a line, wearing a face mask, just the little things that require a little bit more patience. Let's let your mind drift through those things and embrace the positive that comes from those experiences and those thoughts. The idea that we're connecting at different levels, so we're able to, that we're protecting ourselves and protecting others, that we're living a truth with great patience and we're embracing it. Just give yourself a few breaths in that thought process. And then as you begin to build a rhythm of breath that's comfortable for you, that's a little more than passive, just feel the breath moving in and out through the nose, going deep into the lungs. And let's draw the hands to heart center and open this time together with the sacred sound of Om. Take a deep inhale. Om. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm going to move my little bowl out of the way. And the first thing that we're going to do is go into a check-in posture. So that's lying on our back. And just stretch yourself out. I'm going to move my mic around a little bit here. And then reach the arms overhead nice and slow. So those lats really affect the shoulder range of motion. Because when you have tight lats, sometimes it can feel like you don't have as much mobility through the shoulders. It can also affect, because they move up towards the upper back where the traps are begin, that it can feel like there's tension at the neck. So we're really going to be focusing primarily on the lats. We'll introduce other muscles because you can't just do one muscle in your body. You're going to affect others. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do that really uncomfortable roll for along the spine to the outside lateral edge. Remember, you can do this against the wall. And we're going to take that large ball, and I want you to kind of start where your bottom rib is, up against the spine. You pick a side that you want to start with. And remember, the roll is going to go to the outside and back in. And you're gradually going to be rolling that ball, zigzagging up to your upper shoulders. So when you lie down on it, I'm going to scoop myself down the mat a little bit. So I have a little bit of rolling room here. And I'm going to just roll from side to side. And I've got my elbows actually positioned so that I am supported in the upper back. Now, for those that aren't faint of heart, you can load completely right here. And you can either keep your hands behind your head or rest your hands on your thighs. And gradually that ball is going to start rolling up the back. And you betcha. Number one question is, Leslie, are we going to go over the shoulder blade? Yes, we are. We're going to go all the way over the shoulder blade and keep rolling toward that upper shoulder area. And once we get, you can see that little ball is starting to pop up over the top of my shoulder. Once we get into that trap muscle way at the top of the shoulders, the next thing that you're going to do is you're just going to rest back into it and then bring that arm on that side up and circle it around. How does that feel? I always ask this, and I know what you're thinking. You're saying, oh, Leslie, this feels so amazingly good. And it really, to me, feels great. I mean, it may be a little tight, but it feels like I'm really massaging. Just go ahead and keep circling that arm. And then we're going to do our little test, and you're going to see what you did with just rolling superficially over the latissimus dorsi from the bottom to the top. Of course, now we're in the trapezius, and the lats kind of extend up to that. Remember I said the axilla is the armpit? It goes up over here. Good. And then release the arm, take the ball out of the way, stretch out on your back and reach the arms up and overhead. What? That arm feels like it's longer, the leg feels like it's longer. You can feel a little bit more range of motion throughout that area. Subtle, but it's there.
And then we're going to go to the other side. So let's just start at the bottom rib cage, either elbows down to the ground. Remember, you're rolling from the lateral side to the spine and not crossing over the spine. And gradually that ball is going to start rolling its way up your back. And just keep rolling from side to side. And if you're comfortable resting your weight back onto it, go right ahead and yes, indeed, roll right over that shoulder blade. You can see me creeping down as it's rolling its way up, up, up towards the top of that shoulder. Just squirming around on my mat as usual. It's what I do most days as I lay on my mat and I squirm around. And then once it gets to that upper shoulder, you're pinning it, resting the head back, and then reaching the arms up and around. So those are your trapezius muscles right up there at the top. We're just going to circle and work it from there. Good. So that's a good superficial quick roll to open up those lats. And when you do that, you're getting the benefit into your low back all the way up to your shoulders and your neck. There's a big sheath of connective tissue from the mid of the latissimus dorsi to the inside of it. And so when we do this type of rolling, it really helps rehydrate or increase the blood circulation into that muscle and connective tissue, which is what makes it seem like everything else in your body is relaxing once you roll it. And then go ahead and release from there. Then you can roll it onto your back. And when you reach the arms overhead, everything's even again. You don't feel like you're awkwardly displaced on one side of your body anymore. Everything's even. So good job. So the next thing that we're going to do is your lat goes up to here. In fact, when you feel right back here on that outside ropey edge, when you get to the ropey edge of your armpit over here, that's series of ligaments there. But when you get deeper into it, you're going to start feeling the lat right there. And the lat reaches up and out there too. So to roll this, we're going to use the small set, and we're keeping them in the mesh tote. And I'm going to place them right up on a block like that. So the block is widthwise, the balls are widthwise, and keeping them in the tote will keep them from rolling all over the place. And I'm going to go to the outside edge of my armpit right here, and I'm going to rest it right between those balls, and then I'm going to massage up and down. So the range of motion is not great. I can even hold my head like I'm lying on my side on the beach talking to my best friend. And as I roll up and down, I'm really massaging into that upper outer attachment point of the latissimus dorsi. And that really helps loosen up a lot, because we're going to keep going back to that little test that we did. And it's going to be pretty amazing what you unfold with this next one. So just keep massaging up and down. Whew. Now, if you feel like, oh my gosh, Liz, that really is bothering me a lot, and it makes me not like you as much as I thought I did, then just go ahead and relax. You can just rest right there. In fact, if you have upper back tension, sometimes just lying on your side, just like this, is absolutely fine. Could you stretch it out? You can, but even for me, that puts a lot of load on it that feels super uncomfortable. So I tend to want to do it this way for me. And just give yourself still that little roll. You'll notice that when you're looking at it, it doesn't even look like the ball's going anywhere, because the movement is so minimal. But minimal does not mean that it's not effective, and it is effective. Good. And then release from there. Move your little block and balls to the side and roll on to your back again and reach the arms up and over, right? You can feel it's so much looser on one side than the other. It almost feels like, bleh. But when you move the arms up and overhead, that arm feels longer. So we're going to switch it over to the other side and do it on the other side, because what we're doing on one side, we're doing on the other. We're not going to do a complete, like one side all the way and then come back to the other. So outside of the armpit, rested right there between the balls, cradling my head, and then just massaging up and down right in that spot. So how has your day been so far? I've been doing lots of different odds and ends and jobs and trying to kind of focus on the moment, and it's been good. This week, we're going to be venturing into eggplant once again. So I've gotten 2 different recipes for 2 different eggplants, an eggplant parmesan, and then ratatouille. And unlike the movie that I saw with Disney, ratatouille is not made by rats. Remember the movie? Did you see the movie, the Disney movie? And there were all those little cute rats that were running around cooking. So you're just going to massage right into this outside of the armpit, the axilla, and keep moving. And remember, if you get to a point where it's like, I don't want to move anymore, you don't have to. You can just rest right here. And then we're going to go into a little bit work into the deltoid muscles and the biceps. And those guys can get a little tender. So remember, at all times, you want to make sure that you can take a deep breath. Good. And then just release from there and move your little set to the side. As you roll it down to your mat, you'll feel that everything's evened up. And remember how you felt when you first reached the arms overhead? There may have felt like there was a little bit of effort that you had to give it. So we've been doing over the last, go ahead and come on up, over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of work for the shoulders. And the reason is that especially during emotional times or times when we're having to work at being patient and stay in our authenticity and our truths, it takes a lot of stress in the upper body throughout your heart. You may be struggling because on any number of levels. So that all affects the upper back and the muscles there, which then affect the neck and the head and down below on the low back. And so working through these types of key areas can really make a difference with how we feel, almost emotionally. So when we move into the deltoid muscles, you get a couple of choices. I'm going to switch the block around so it's lengthwise. And again, I'm using the small classic size set and I'm placing the horizontal. Your deltoid is right here in the upper area of your arm. Then you've got like 3 layers of biceps that actually work in attaching up to the deltoid. And then remember, the deltoid is up here towards the trapezius. Trapezius is up in the upper shoulders, the upper back, and goes with little fingers up into your neck. So, and connects down into where the shoulder blades are. So when we work the deltoids, this can be a sensitive spot. So again, if you'd rather press up against the wall, you're more than welcome to do so. So when I lie on my side, I'm just going to cradle the deltoid muscle right in between the balls right there. And I'm hanging up here. There's no doubt about it. I'm just kind of hanging up here. And I'm just doing a straight compression. That's it. There's no big moving around, no wiggling around. It's all straight compression. So as I press in, then all of a sudden things are going to start loosening up. And we're not going to stay here forever. So you just want to kind of take a few deep breaths right here. And again, if you're feeling uncomfortable, like I'm not feeling any kind of pressure in my neck or anything holding myself in this position, because I actually feel like I'm loading my body weight into the deltoids resting on the ball. That's where I'm feeling most of the pressure. And so because of it, I feel supported. But if you don't feel that way, you can go right up against the wall. And what you do is just place the balls against the wall without the block and cradle the upper arm right between them. So you're just going to compress right here. Take a couple more deep breaths. And then just try to really release your body weight into the balls. I just released a whole lot of body weight right there. Because we do tend to hold ourselves. And then just take one more deep breath. Good. And then release from there. Come to a seated posture. And then reach the arms up. Notice the difference from one side to the other. You may also feel like that shoulder, just from that straight compression there, is a little more relaxed than the other shoulder. It's weird. So let's switch it to the other side. Remember, we're doing from one side to the other. And now I'm taking the opposite shoulder, upper arm. I'm just going to rest it right in the middle of those balls. And I've got my hips stacked and I'm feeling quite comfortable. Just keep moving your arms around and taking a few breaths. We probably held a series of about 10 breaths on the other side. So we're going to do that for this side before we start to move into the biceps. So as you really start to focusing your breath, just keep relaxing that body right into the balls. Good. It takes a little bit of work, and sometimes we hold back so much. And this might be really uncomfortable for you. If it's too uncomfortable, dial back. It's okay. And remember, the wall will make a big difference if you're feeling a lot of tension. And then just take those few more breaths right there and try to relax right into it. We underestimate the power of just straight compression with no movement, just resting up against it. Good. And just one more breath here. Excellent. And then release from there. And you'll notice that as you come back to that seated posture, reaching the arms up, everything feels a little more even. So how are you feeling? Do a little check-in. Remember, if you need a little bit of water, grab some. Forgot to talk about oils today. If you want to put on a little oil for yourself, go ahead. I'm using Neroli again today. It's very calming. It comes from the bittersweet orange tree. And I like to warm it up and take a nice deep inhale. I've also been diffusing lavender and lemon today. And boy, oh boy, is that a great combo. So there's a lot of good stuff that we can do. Now, since we're set up on this side, let's just stay on this side. And what we're going to do here is you're actually going to rest here, and now we're going to roll. So I'm moving in toward the outer portion of the bicep muscles, and I'm going below the deltoid. So if you think about it, I'm coming from below the deltoid, moving right into here. Remember, I said there's like 3 sheaths of bicep muscles that comprise your biceps. So this is the kind of the first roll that we're going to do right here. We're going to do a manual handheld roll coming up in just a moment. And I'm not going far. I'm just going really halfway down the upper arm. I'm not going a big distance. But if you want to change positions, you can lift up, drop the balls a little bit lower, and then work a little bit lower. And although it may look awkward, this doesn't feel awkward at all. I feel quite supported. But of course, again, you can do this against the wall if you need to. If you're feeling awkward and you can't quite get an anchor point in your body position. And then release from there. And now we're going to do the manual roll. Manual roll, you're going to go right to what we traditionally think of as just the bicep area, which is the gun. And you're going to place that muscle between the balls and roll up and down. Just roll up and down, just like that. You can go as vigorously as you would like. Yeah, just keep rolling.
softening up. We use these arms so much. We really do. We're lifting, we're pulling, we're, trying to reach for things, and typing alone, which, I guess they call it keyboard work. But back in the day when I was a kid, you learned how to type. And in the typing motion, that affects the whole arms all the way up to the shoulders. So as we're doing so much texting and keyboard work on our computers, our laptops, whatever you're working with right now, then that makes a big difference to adding tension into that upper body as well. Good. And then release from there and just check it out. Mile long arm on one side, not so on the other. So let's even them up. So remember, we're going back to below the deltoid. That's this guy here, and then we're going to go right below it. Balls are placed horizontally in the tote on the block. And then as I rest that arm down there, pin it, then I'm going to give myself that little roll. And again, I don't feel like my weight is awkwardly displaced and I need to straighten myself up. I feel fine. The biggest challenge that I have right now is that I am so right body dominant that this side is much more uncomfortable than the other side. So I'm kind of like wanting to clench my teeth, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use my breath to try to keep relaxing. But this side is definitely much more, there's probably a lot more tightness, and that connective tissue feels a little more at challenge than it did on the other side. And that you might notice that with your body from one side to the other. So as I keep rolling up and down, just in a small range, it's not a big range, just really short. Yeah, and these are all really great tools. Now we do a pretty comprehensive session, but a little bit of rolling goes a long way. You don't have to feel like you got to set up everything under the sun and do a whole session. Just give yourself a little bit of rolling every day in those key spots, or maybe go to one of those spots that you don't think you need it and see what happens, because I'll bet you'll be surprised. And then release from there, coming back up. We're going to do that manual roll. So going right to our traditional bicep area that we think of. You're just going to roll up and down in that area. Just manually. And this is absolutely a little different than if you just took your thumb and massaged it. Yeah. And it feels good. Good. Give it a little bit more roll right there. Excellent. All right. How's that feeling? Woo! Getting the windmill effect. If I had to play the guitar, air guitar, I could do it very well. So now we're going to do a very deep contact point that goes to the lats. And it's the one that I always laugh about in class, because this is the one that I will not help you do. You got to find this puppy yourself. And you're going right into the armpit. So it's the thumb going into the armpit. For those of you that have been with me before, we have done this before in class. And so when I roll back, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to place the big ball at that fleshy portion of the outer part right here at the lat. I'm going to come to the screen so you can see this a little better. When you think about me raising my arm here, this portion right here, which is actually the reverse side of where my armpit is, the axilla, come around here, the ball is going to go right in that spot. What's going to happen is I'm going to stick my thumb right in my armpit and start massaging this upper portion of my latissimus dorsi. So let's do this together. As I roll back, the ball's going to go on the back part of that lat, and it pushes the tissue, the whole
muscle out and flattens it. And then you want to roll over the very outside edge of your armpit. So when you feel that little outside edge of it, it's almost like a little rope. You're going to go over that and go right deeper in. And when you press your thumb in and start massaging that, you're getting right into that upper portion of the lat that attaches right up there towards the armpit. And this is like the money shot. You know, it's one of those things that you don't want to do when you have a bunch of friends over or you're entertaining. But actually, man, if you're getting ready to go to bed at night and you've carried a lot of tension in your neck and your shoulders, this is wonderful to do, because there's just not a lot of times that we think about sticking our thumb in our armpit, but this one is worth it. So just keep massaging. And if you feel like you can drop that arm out to the side, go for it. I have my head resting on a block because that just feels better for my neck. And you can either keep your legs stretched out or the knees bent, whatever feels best for you. But just keep massaging right into that little spot. Whew. Yeah. If you have long fingernails, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. So be sure to give yourself a little manicure before you do this the next time if you've got those sharp little fingernails. But you're basically laying the thumb bed right there into it. And this is one of my favorites because it really does help alleviate a lot of neck and shoulder tension. Those lats they're thin muscles, but they're very big muscles. They go a long way in that upper back. And then release from there. All right. Before we switch it to the other side, check it out. Feel like you've got a little bit more space there on that side. So as I roll it back, head resting on the block, ball behind that little area, digging my thumb down in there and starting to massage right there, relaxing that opposite arm out. And definitely, you may find that trying to relax the arm down, you may feel a little bit of tightness because we're going to get into the high pec muscles and some of these shoulder rotator cuff muscles shortly. And so just keep massaging right in there. Did you turn some music on so that you could, you know, I mean, I don't know if they have really armpit thumb massage music, but maybe this is an opportunity for our creativity to start to really think of something that would be good companion tunes for armpit thumb massage music. And just keep working into it. Yeah, it feels quite good. And then once you massage just a little bit more right there, and I've got my fingers gripped around the ball, actually, to hold that ball right in place. That is great. And then release from there. Wow. Go ahead and come back up to a seated posture. Get a little bit of water if you need to. Excellent. So we're going to be massaging the front of the shoulder going into here, and we're going to be going a little deeper down in here. So when you think about it, I've got another little helpful photograph for you. You've got other muscles. There's so many muscles that comprise all of this. Here's some other muscles that you've got right up in here. So if you think about it, right here as I turn a little bit, and I think you can see that, you're going to be tackling some shoulder rotator cuff muscles like the teres minor, teres major. And we're going to be working right into this general vicinity on the inside of the shoulder, okay? So let's go. Let's do this. You're going to use the big ball again. We're using almost the big ball primarily today. And I'm going to stretch down, belly down. Remember, with this one, if you would prefer to be against the wall, you're welcome to do that. I'm actually going to use the block to rest my head on because the alpha ball is big enough to support the upper portion of the shoulder. So I'm going to press it right to not the top of the arm, not yet, but I'm going to go roll it down into what I like to lovingly call the shoulder pocket. When you roll that shoulder forward, you create that little pocket. And as you lie down onto the mat and massage, I'm actually resting my head right on this block. And I'm just going to circle the shoulder around. You've done this before. This is not a new roll for you. And so as I keep massaging right into that shoulder pocket, I'm actually going to stay in the shoulder pocket for now and notice that I am circling my shoulder around. That's what's creating the movement here. Last week when we did this, we actually brought the arm out and behind us. But this time I'm just resting that arm out to the side because I'm getting ready to come in to the anterior portion of the deltoid muscle on the front of the shoulder. And that's at the upper arm. And that can be a tender spot. So once you keep rolling there, start moving the ball to the top of the arm on the front, right there. And then circle that shoulder around like you're doing that little come hither shrug with that shoulder moving around. How does that feel? It's tender, isn't it? It is super tender. So just keep rolling. And when we do these things, especially for the anterior sides of the shoulder and arm, it helps relax those muscles, tissue hydration, which then takes less load on the upper back and the neck. So when you do something for my neck or my upper back, sometimes going to this spot is exactly what we need. And just give it a little bit more of a roll right there. Take a few deep breaths. Kind of check in with your breath a little bit here. Good. And then release from there. And then push it back to your child's pose. And when you do and you stretch those arms out, you're going to feel such a greater range of motion on that side because you loosen the connective tissue, you relax through the muscles, and because of that, everything can move a little easier. So let's switch it to the other side. I've been turning around back and forth. And it'll go inside the shoulder pocket first. I'm checking my microphone to make sure I don't smash it. And then shrugging the shoulder around right here. I hope you can hear me okay. And just keep moving that shoulder around circularly. I hope you've enjoyed the ability to be able to have your classes online during this time when we can't meet at the studio. I think it's been just so brilliant for Danette to pull this all together for us to be able to do. And for those of us that have been able to have the equipment at home to make it happen, I mean, I could not have done this by myself, believe me. My husband has been my total backup man. Now, he claims that Merlin assists as well, our house cat, but you know, I don't think Merlin does a lot. In fact, he's sitting in his little basket right now sleeping. So he's not much of a crew member. And just keep massaging. And then here comes that repositioning to the upper front portion of the arm. So as I roll it, I'm going to scoot my way over a little bit. And I'm just going to shrug that shoulder up and down and around to massage into that upper arm. Make no mistake about it. When you do this, you're actually helping relieve a lot of tension that you have from all of this texting and a lot of the computer work maybe that we're doing, laptop and keyboard work that we were talking about earlier. These are all areas of your body that start to feel like their motion is restricted and they can't move as deeply. The whole idea is that as we do this, we're increasing, hopefully, our range of motion, and we're just helping the body move into
it's more free range of motion from the perspective of we're just freeing it up so that it can move easier. And when we don't do that, and we try to rapidly move quickly into a full range of motion when our body's not ready to it, that can lead to injury, temporary or long, who knows? And then release from there and go right back to that child's pose and just stretch those arms out. Excellent, excellent. And then come to your seated posture. And as you do, notice how the hips feel. Notice how maybe it felt when you first began your practice today. And when I asked you to come to a seated posture before I hit that really loud ding on the bowl, how you might have felt. You might have felt like your hips couldn't really relax very much and the knees were up a little higher. There was some tightness towards these areas of the hip flexors. But now maybe things are starting to loosen up, and we didn't touch the hips at all today. We've done it all in the upper back and the shoulders. So now we're going to do a nice roll up and down the spine, still keeping the balls into the little mesh tote. If you want to take them out, you can, but then you're subject to having to chase balls when they slip out and start rolling. So it's up to you. You're going to place the balls just at the base of your neck, at the top of the thoracic portion of the spine. So remember, when we're talking about the thoracic portion, that's at the base of the neck, that first dominant vertebra that's sticking out, that first little knob. That's your thoracic one. And you're going to be working down, going no lower than your rib cage. But we're going to kind of do it in short blocks. So as I rest here, hands behind the head, lifting the hips, I'm going to roll up and down from that T1 to maybe T3, just in a short range. That's rough, yeah. And just massage right into it. Take some deep breaths. And then relax down. You know, roll the balls down a little bit farther. And then from there, go down a couple, 2 or 3 vertebrae from there. Just roll up and down. One thing I love about this class, when we do this together, we get very intimately involved in our spine. We are really connected with the spine and at the different locations. And then release from there, lift up, roll them down a little bit lower. You could also roll into it. I'm trying to push down today. And then lift up and roll up and down. So when you start to get into that, like diminishing below the shoulder blades, that feels a little bit more tender. So just keep rolling from there. And then release, and then bring them down one more lot. And then from here, I'm going to use my elbows. And I'm just going to roll right there. And that's getting to the bottom of my rib cage in that spot. Woohoo. It feels good though. It feels really nice. Good, good, good. And then release from there. Come to an upright seated posture, and let's head into a couple of stretches. Keep your strap handy if you need it. It's Janu Shirshasana time. So as you stretch out through one leg, draw the sole of the other foot to the inside of the thigh or lower, depending on how your knee feels. If you can't reach that opposite foot with your hands, so the leg that's extended, opposite arm reaches towards the foot, then please feel free to use your strap. And as you reach into it, if you are distracted by your hamstrings on that extended leg, take that big ball and place it behind the knee to be able to relax the hamstrings. Otherwise, I want you to think about feeling that stretch along the side back body. Just right along here. It can go from shoulders all the way down to the hip. Just take maybe about 4 more deep breaths.
Just keep breathing really actively. And then release from there and switch it to the other side. Just the best stretch ever. Remember, one side may require a little bit more attention than the other. Just give yourself that deep stretch. And one more deep breath here. And then release from there. So we have reached the end of our session here today. How do you feel? We're going to go into Shavasana. So feel free to get into the position that feels best for you. If you would like to lie down on your mat, if you want to put legs up wall, just really embrace a posture that will feel best to you. You might want to turn down your music. If you're using an essential oil, you may want to lather that on again so that you are breathing in that essence while you're relaxing in this wonderful posture. You opened up through the upper back body, which gave you really an opening throughout the rest of the body as well. Relax. And take a deep inhale. And sigh the air out. And as you release into your mat, just think about for every breath that passes, you're a little calmer. You're living in your truth. You're living in the moment. And keep letting go. And when it's time to come back, I'll come for you.
Take a deep breath. Give yourself a little bit of a stretch. And before you move from that posture, just drink in how your body feels and the effect that that has on your mind. Just kind of feel it. And then when you're ready, gently roll yourself over to one side and just take a few breaths. Gently push yourself back to an upright seated posture. And then take a cleansing breath. And then draw the hands to heart center. Truth and patience. Living in our truth and having the patience to do it. Let's close this time with the sacred sound of Om. Take a deep inhale. Om. Namaste. Have a wonderful day. Make it count. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye now.